Welcome to another edition of Diplomatic Channel. I'm Amarachi Ubani. The war in the Middle East has taken a new turn, with Iran vowing retaliation on Israel for bombing its consulate in Damascus, Syria. Over the weekend, Iran sent hundreds of drones into Israel, which were intercepted. It is the first time Iran has targeted Israel directly from its own soil. Now, it's not clear yet whether this is another war, but Iran has also vowed to retaliate the killing of an Iranian military commander earlier this month. Our world leaders have urged restraint, but Iran has warned countries like the United States not to get involved. We'll have more on this later. Plus, while we took a dive into the celebration of International French Language Day last month, we did mention the event was hosted by the French Consul General in Lagos, Mr. Laurent Favier, the Canadian High Commissioner to Nigeria, Jamie Christophe, and the Swiss Consul General to Nigeria, Frank Egman. I'll give a sneak peek into Mr. Egman's comments at the program.
The Francophonie is a construction of countries and a network of like-minded countries sharing the same values. Time can be either like sand in your hand, or time can be a construction, something that you do out of it. And this is not from me, it's from Antoine Saint-Exupéry that mentioned that. This construct is what Switzerland wants it to be in the world, a country that focuses on working for the future into the topic of education. Education is the basics of everything. And the movies that we saw tonight together give us a brave, simple lesson about what education means for our young people and what future it offers to our young people. Of course, we need to take care of our elderly people. Of course, we have to take care of those that are in the active life. But investment is the best we can do. And here in Nigeria, the same. Switzerland is engaged in investing in vocational training for young people. We, together with Swiss companies, we sponsor vocational training, dual apprenticeship, because we think that this is the basics for every society to grow. You can't have PhDs at all levels. If I need somebody to repair my air conditioning or my plumbing at home, I just want somebody that knows the job. I don't want that person to come back 3 times a day or a week to repair it. I want somebody like my plumber in Switzerland who drives a Mercedes. Why? Because his job is valorized, his job is recognized, his job is respected. And the plumber sits together with the PhD at the same table, with the policeman, with the ambassador, with anybody. Those are the values that we would like to share. And those are the values also that we share tonight with the Francophonie. I'm really thinking about the movies that we saw. It was about education, it was about dedication, it was about respect, it was about rule of law, it was about peaceful togetherness, avoiding conflicts, finding solutions. When the rules say you can have only 99 chickens, we'll find a way. If we can't have 300, but we won't fight and kill each other for that. And I think this is what our world needs nowadays. And I think this is what the Francophonie and the value it defends also offered us tonight.
And that's because we sat down for an exclusive chat with him later, where he talked about not just the importance of French language to Switzerland, but Nigeria-Swiss relations. That's Diplomatic Channel in a wrap. Here are other discussions in diplomatic circles.
Israelis gathered in Tel Aviv to voice opposition to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government and demand negotiations for the return of Hamas-held hostages in Gaza. The protesters waved Israeli flags and held up placards with pictures of hostages. Israel says Hamas militants are still holding 133 hostages in captivity since the October 7, 2023 attack on Israel, including toddlers and the elderly.
I don't believe anything that Hamas said. This is the first thing. And I'm sure they know where most of the people, if not all of them, where they are. And if they want it, they can find anyone they want, because it's impossible that they said they don't know where the people is. It's not a 1 week after and no one knows what exactly is happening. After 6 months, they probably know where every one of the hostages there, at least the live one, and I hope also the dead one, so we'll be able to bring them back to be buried in Israel at the end.
I think after 190 days, we have no choice but to talk and make a deal tomorrow. We've been talking to ourselves for too long, and we understand what the situation is. We understand what the dynamic is. We know who we are. Let's call it negotiating with. It is hardly negotiations. And let's just get down to we agree, let's start getting hostages home and work from there.
You know, I don't care what Hamas say. I don't care. I'm not negotiating with Hamas. I have a government and the best people in the IDF and Mossad and everything. They can negotiation. I don't care what Hamas say. I care that my government must release Tal and all the hostages. That's it. Let them to do the negotiation. I don't care what Hamas say.
Away from the Middle East, dozens of peace activists in Germany have rallied against arms deliveries to Ukraine, calling for diplomatic regulation efforts and peace with Russia. Demonstrators held peace flags, white balloons with doves, and banners with inscriptions warning against rearmament, war, and new refugees. Peace activists were also seen listening to speeches, ringing a big bell, watching a performance symbolizing a bridge explosion, and releasing the balloons as a symbol of peace doves. While the activists say they do not support Russian President Vladimir Putin, they insist it won't help anyone if the war continues. The protest comes after French President Emmanuel Macron repeatedly discussed the possibility of sending NATO troops into Ukraine, stating the potential move should not be ruled out. NATO and key allies, including Germany, the US and the UK, have dismissed the suggestion. And one of Nigeria's most decorated diplomats, Aminat Sumaila, has formally been relieved of her position as Nigeria Consul General to Washington. During her time as Consul General, Ms. Sumaila became the first and only African diplomat bestowed the honor of presenting the commencement speech for the 2022 graduating class at the West Lyon College in Macon, Georgia. She was conferred honorary Georgia citizen from the Georgia Secretary of State following the first ever resolution passed by the Senate of the state of Georgia recognizing an African diplomat in its 247-year legacy. The African diplomat also got a recognition from the Atlanta Council, a recipient of the prestigious Phoenix Award by the city of Atlanta, for which she received a letter of commendation from former Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Geoffrey Oyema. Ms. Sumaila is back in the country, awaiting her next deployment from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Welcome back. On Sunday, Iran warned Israel that any reckless retaliation to its unprecedented aerial attack would receive a much stronger response. Over the weekend, Iran launched more than 300 drones and missiles into Israel, following Israel's April 1st strike on the Iranian consulate in Syria. Now, Israel said it had intercepted 99% of the weapons. It's the first time Iran has directly attacked Israel, both countries having been engaged in years-long shadow war.
The sound of air raid sirens wailing in Jerusalem in the early hours of Sunday as Iranian drones and missiles entered into Israeli airspace. The drones were launched by Iran. Hundreds of them made their way towards Israel in Tehran's first direct attack on the Jewish state, signaling a major escalation of tensions in the region. The attack is Iran's response to an alleged Israeli airstrike on the Iranian consulate in Damascus, Syria on April 1st, which killed at least 7 members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, including a senior Quds force member. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps launched a wave of more than 300 drones and missiles from Iran towards Israel, bringing the conflict that had been largely waged through proxies into the open for the first time. Iran's National Security Council lodged a formal complaint with the UN Security Council, accusing Israel of a terrorist attack on diplomatic premises of the Islamic Republic of Iran in Syria. The Syrian Health Ministry reported additional casualties among Syrian citizens, while Iran's Foreign Ministry says the country reserves the right to retaliate. Israeli Minister of Defense Yoav Gallant said in a video statement that the IDF thwarted the Iranian attack on its territory in an impressive manner. Gallant has described Iran as a terrorist state, whose true face the world was now seeing, saying, "The world saw the power of a coalition and how Israel, together with the United States and additional partners, stood together and thwarted this attack in a way that is unparalleled." He warned that the campaign was not over and that Israel must remain alert and attentive to instructions published by the IDF and Home Front Command and be prepared for every scenario.
בלמנו ועשינו את זה בהצלחה גדולה. אנחנו ערוכים לכל תרחיש, הן בהגנה והן בהתקפה.
The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel is prepared for any attack from Iran and that it will exact a price from Iran as it weighs its response to the unprecedented overnight barrage of drone and missile strikes while facing international pressure to de-escalate.
אנחנו פוגעים בו.
He said in a televised address, "Our defense systems are deployed. We're ready for any scenario, both defensively and offensively. The state of Israel is strong. The IDF is strong. The public is strong."
ובעזרת השם, יחד נתגבר על כל אויבינו.
U.S. officials say President Joe Biden has made it very clear to Israel he hopes to de-escalate tensions following the attack. They also say the U.S. will not participate in any Israeli offensive response. Meanwhile, Jordan's Air Force reportedly intercepted dozens of Iranian drones and missiles heading to Israel near Amman on Sunday night, following Iran's massive attack against Israel early in the morning. Videos posted online showed flying objects alleged to be missiles or drones lighting up the Amman night sky as fighter jets patrolled the sky over the capital after Jordan, alongside Iraq and Lebanon, closed its airspace in anticipation of the incoming Iranian aircraft. Located between Iran and Israel, the country said it would intercept and shoot down any Iranian aircraft violating its airspace. Back in Iran, parliament members celebrated the overnight attacks on Israel. Representatives gathered in the central part of the assembly, raising hands and chanting slogans. As for Iranians, large crowds gathered in Tehran's Palestine Square in the early hours of Sunday morning, showing their support for the Iranian military following the attack. Locals cheered and waved Palestinian and Iranian flags, while holding banners and placards. Israeli officials say Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's war cabinet favors a retaliation against Iran for the attack, but is divided over the timing and scale of any such response.
Last month, on March 20, France and other French-speaking nations represented here in Nigeria marked the International Day of the French Language at Alliance Française in Lagos. The event was marked with film shows depicting French life and the spread of the language, as well as speeches by diplomats from France, Canada, and Switzerland, countries in the West where French is spoken as a national language. Over the course of the event, I had a chance to chat with the Swiss Consul General to Lagos, Frank Eggman. Mr. Eggman has been Consul General for the Consulate General of Switzerland in Lagos since August 2023. Before that, he was Consul General of Switzerland in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, before August 2023 when he resumed in Nigeria. He was also Consul General at the Federal Department of Foreign Affairs for Economy, Trade, Innovation and Technology, Tourism and Culture in Chengdu, China, and served as head of Swiss Business Hub, Hong Kong, deputy head of mission at the Embassy of Switzerland, Malaysia, and worked in recruitment, HR, and training at the Federal Department of Foreign Affairs in Switzerland. Now I can tell you, Mr. Eggman already loves Nigeria, the people and the culture, you name it. But he was also willing to share some insights into the difference between Switzerland and many countries, in that priority is given to skilled manpower just as much as formal education. Take a listen.
60% German speaking or 65% German speaking, 30% French speaking, 5% in the south of the country speaking Italian, for bordering Italy, logically. And then, yes, a small 0 point something percentage that speaks Romansh, a traditional language still spoken in certain hidden valleys and mountains in East Switzerland, exactly.
And it is an official language.
So it's embedded in our constitution. It's an official language. Basically, you learn one of the 3 languages in school, or 2 of the 3 languages in school, the main one. Romansh is really something traditional that we want to keep differences alive and not to mainstream everything. Our world nowadays is a bit mass media, is mainstream. We want to cultivate those differences, and this is why we still have Romansh.
Can we talk a little bit about, Nigeria-Swiss relations? I see that, the main exports, Swiss exports to Nigeria are pharmaceuticals and machinery. Could you speak a bit more about that?
We would love to develop these bilateral trades, of course. We are looking at different sectors. I recently had a discussion with people that are in FMCG, fast-moving consumer goods, and that goes both ways. You know that Switzerland is one of the biggest coffee and cocoa trader in the world. We don't produce one single grain of coffee, one single grain of cocoa, and you in Nigeria have the best coffee and cocoa in the world. I have a friend doing chocolate here. I'm sorry to say, I've never had a chocolate like that, and it's made in Nigeria. So there is a potential, you see, in so many different things. We would like to go step by step. We don't have the capacity as Swiss with our SMEs. When you talk about companies, SMEs in Switzerland, we're talking about family businesses, small enterprise. We're not talking about the big ones. The big ones are already here. The pharmaceuticals are here. The machine industry is here. You eat and read and ride and go Swiss every day without knowing it. But all your Magic Cube, Bouillon, your Milo, your Nescafe and those things, this is all basically Swiss DNA. So there are a lot of ways, and my job here in Lagos is to foster this exchange in both ways. Of course, my main task helping Swiss companies to find the right distributor here or to go about venturing further into the country.
Are there other areas you wish that there were better collaborations?
I shortly mentioned today the education. Everything starts with education. We started reading with 1 letter, 2 letters, 3 letters. We formed sentences. Education starts at the bottom line, and this is something that we are developing here together with Swiss companies, Nestlé being one of them, Bühler Mills, the milling company Bühler, they are well known here, machine industry, farm mills, etc. They train young technicians. I was 2 weeks ago at Nestlé factory in Ogun State, and 20 young people were awarded the final certification of vocational training at Nestlé. 11 women, 11 girls, 9 boys. Note, more women than boys in a sector that usually you see more men than women. So we do small steps with Swiss companies together because we know them well, we know how they operate, but then we are within the population of Nigeria operating and developing those vocational skills. We see too often, way too often, and it's for Nigeria, but for many other countries also, and we have to be careful. Young people coming with a bachelor and a master, they have no clue about real life and business. We rather take it from the other side, start a basic job, perform, get good. I studied at university level when I was 40 years old. I started with a vocational training in commerce and trade, which you can do in Switzerland, which is highly regarded. The plumber sits with the doctor, with the policeman, with an academic. We are all equals, and each one knows his job best. I said always, the plumber in my village in Switzerland drives a Mercedes. So education would be one of these areas that we would like to develop together with Nigeria.
So it is Women's Month. How is Switzerland investing in its women?
It has been investing for a very long time. We still had this discrepancy in salaries because women 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago had less education than men. Due to the circumstances, the man was the provider for the family, and women would rather stay home and do things. And it took a long time until our society changed and empowered the woman. We were also too late from my point of view, but we are getting there. There are still some disparities in salaries in Switzerland, but then we have companies that are awarded a certificate when they pay same or even better. If the person is better, if the lady is better than a man for the same position, she will have more salary. So we are there. We're still battling for a few percent in certain areas that were more men's occupied areas. Okay. On the other hand, we have a lot of men that go now as nurses, as in the education with small children, etc. Also, so there is a mix happening. No. That's a big topic in Switzerland, and our government has an eye on it, and not only the eye, but has his hands in it, and we are happy to support that, also here in Nigeria.
Consul General Frank Eggman, thank you so much for speaking with me.
That was a short one.
And that's the program this week. We'd love to have you on again next time. Don't forget the addresses to reach me on are on your screen. I'm Amarachi Ubani. I'll see you next time.